Hi guys, story recaps here. I am going to explain a 2020 vampire horror film called Boys from County Hell. Please try to like or dislike the video, it is important to us. At the beginning of the film, we see a couple. That was an older couple. Unexpectedly, the old lady's nose begins to bleed. When she sees her husband, she feels terrified, since her husband's eyes were also bleeding. It was starting to seem creepy. It is followed by a scene from 2 months later. The two best friends can be seen. Eugene is one of them, while William is the other. They were drinking and talking in the bar. Their home was in the hills, and they took several tourists there. They think Dracula is buried there. His grave was there, with large stones stacked on top of it. They say odd things to those tourists. You will hear some voices when you will go close to it. When one of them gets close to it, SP, a friend of theirs, comes and terrifies him. The tourist leaves from there, angry. Eugene discovers a skull in his parents' basement. It had gone black. Eugene carries it home and sets it on the dining room table. "What have you brought?" his father asks as he looks at it. "Do you know who owns this skull?" We've seen Eugene in a pub with his friend William and a female friend. Eugene and William arrive home late at night. They were on their way from Dracula's grave to the hills. They are arguing over something in the meanwhile. While fighting, Eugene pushes William as his hand touches the grave. His hand starts to bleed, and he is hurt. In the meantime, a pig emerges from the woods and attacks William. It brutally kills him. Eugene could see what was going on, but he couldn't do anything to help his buddy, William. William's father also comes, and we see something weird here. The blood nearby of the grave mysteriously disappears. Following that, William's father goes to the police station to get his son's body. The next day, we observe that they plan to conduct some construction projects on the hills near the grave. They were all scared of having to dig up the grave. Eugene fearlessly removes the grave from there, without being afraid. SP, his friend, disappoints him. He was preparing himself for the worst. In the next scene, a worker is shown. He is one of those who was also doing construction work on the hills. While sitting in the office, he senses the presence of someone. He goes to check and calls, but no one replies. While checking, he walks to a room where there is a lot of blood. The worker had definitely been attacked. When they all arrive at the building site, they see something surprising. The grave, which they had demolished the day before, had been restored to its original condition. The stones that they had taken from the grave have reappeared. After witnessing it, they accuse William's father. He was the one who prohibits anybody to disrupt the grave. On the other side, we see Eugene's father, who does not want his son to be involved in this. He asks that he stop doing so. Eugene refuses to listen to him. Meanwhile, the worker who was injured late at night comes. Eugene's father reports that when he sees him, he drinks beer all the time. We will not complete our job for him unless he leaves. After witnessing an attack on a worker late at night, we assumed he was dead. While sitting in the car, Eugene takes the worker with him. While talking, the worker suddenly tries to bite Eugene. When he tries to escape, the car loses its balance. The car is involved in an accident. Eugene's father, who was in the hills at the time, rushes to the car when he notices this. Eugene is instantly removed from the car by him. He notices that the worker has disappeared. He couldn't find the worker when he searched for him. They're all looking for the worker with the torch in the dark rooms. Meanwhile, the worker's face is lighted by a torchlight. The worker had been hurt, and his health had deteriorated. His face was swollen with blood. The worker attacks the man with the torch in his hand. He ruthlessly kills him. Meanwhile, Eugene's female friend reaches and attacks the worker with a pole. She beats him with the pole till his heart sticks to it and falls out. It's a terrifying scene, to be sure. The worker, though, was still alive. He was still breathing. They bury him in a deep ditch. Instead, he wasn't going to die. He was dashing out with the pole like a beast. They are all terrified by what they see in front of them. Eugene's friend uses the machine to throw soil at the worker. It was a clever effort. They do this so that he is entirely buried in the grave and cannot be extricated. Another strangeness we noted was that the worker was the one who attacked the man. His blood was slowly penetrating the grave. Meanwhile, we witness a horrible foot emerge from the tomb. They were scared when they saw it. Even in the grave, it was clear that the worker wasn't dead. They all go to William's father and tell him everything that has happened. William's father wasn't convinced. Eugene notices William's father doing something unusual while looking for something. He was removing the blood from the slaughtered animals. Nobody knows why he is acting this way. They are concerned, but when they question William's father becomes angry and points a pistol at them. Eugene's friend relaxes him in some way. Eugene learned about a chamber from William's father. He also invites Eugene to follow him to the room. He notices that William is still alive and that he is not dead. When Eugene witnessed this, he was horrified and astonished. William didn't look like a person, but his condition was similar to that of an animal. His father's job was to kill animals and get their blood. William's father claims that when performing a post-mortem on his son while talking to his wife, William awoke suddenly. William's mother suffers from depression as a result of seeing the incident. We imprisoned William in a room since he lacked power at the time. Actually, it was all the result of Dracula's rebirth. Because they had stepped on his grave. William has been possessed by Dracula's soul. They are all having trouble because of Dracula. They studied Dracula's book and learned that Dracula cannot be killed. Eugene's father was totally against it. He feels that if they chop off William's head, everything would be well. Everything will be completed. They all devise a scheme to kill William. William's mother awoke unexpectedly while they were preparing. In order to prevent William's father from murdering him, she shoots and injures him. William then attacks his mother. He bites her and killed her. They are horrified and leave when they witness all of this. They take refuge in a car. Nobody has the key to the car, and William also comes. He intends to kill everyone, but William's father is against it. He fights with his own son. They all enter and seek protection in the home. William arrives while looking for everyone. SP had gone into hiding after cleverly wrapping William in a coffin. He calls everyone in the room to help him. They all place the coffin lid on. SP gets hurt while pushing William inside the coffin. As a result, he dies there. The coffin is buried. We are shown the moment 2 months after the beginning of the film, where we saw the old couple with bleeding eyes and nose. It happened to them because Dracula was approaching the city. Everyone in the city starts to bleed like water once Dracula arrives. They all went to help the people in the city who buried William's body. Meanwhile, Eugene discovers that Dracula's castle is his parents' house. He discovered the black skull there. He expects to run into Dracula there. Eugene and his father have taken refuge in their home. Eugene's father causes him to be unconscious in order to save him. To compete with Dracula on his own. When Dracula appears in front of him, Eugene's father severs her head with an axe. After completing this, he is relieved since he believes he has murdered Dracula. As he tells this to Eugene, Dracula reappears and attacks Eugene's father. It was obvious that Dracula could not be killed. That means the book was correct. Eugene and his father exit the sewer via a waste pipe. He goes into the darkness with his father when he sees daylight. He believes Dracula will die from exposure to sunlight since he is hidden. He realizes that the daylight has no effect on Dracula's body. When Eugene sees it, he is horrified. To rescue his father, he drags him away and hides him. Eugene's father informs him that it is critical to stop and kill Dracula. Eugene is seen removing his father's broken leg from his body. His terror increased as Dracula got closer to him. After breaking his father's leg, Eugene strikes Dracula with it. Dracula is instantly thrown into a ditch. Eugene puts soil on her without delay. Following that, he dumps large stones around the area. So Dracula couldn't escape from there. Meanwhile, Eugene's female friend arrives to save them. After that, we see the situation 3 months later. Eugene and his father are present. Eugene's father had lost a leg but was still alive. He was telling Eugene that he discovered some stones while cleaning the house. Eugene takes the stones to Dracula's tomb. He lays those stones on her tomb to strengthen it. As a result, Dracula could never escape. That brings the film to an end. Subscribe and turn on the notification. You can also dislike or like the video to appreciate our hard work.